everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jill and today I'm going to be talking about the most surprising books that I read in 2020. This is the first video, which is a part of my kind of end of the year series. I am one of those people that has to wait until like the very end of December in order to make these lists. Like I know some people like make them at the beginning of December and like go you, but like I'm one of those people that has to wait because like what if I read, you know, a surprising book in December, which I actually did. But just to give a little look into the future, I'm going to be doing this video, which you're watching today, my most surprising books. Then I'm going to do the worst books or my most disappointing books of the year, and I'm also going to be doing, of course, my best books of the year. And those will be coming beginning of January, probably to the middle of January, because I probably should have filmed these a couple days ago, but I just didn't want to force myself to film when I wasn't really feeling it. All of these are going to be books that actually surprised me in a good way, and I think only one of them made it on to my best books of the year of 2020, because for a lot of these I really wanted to make a video talking about them, but they weren't quite in my top books of 2020, if that makes sense. But I was still really surprised by how much I did enjoy them. Without further ado, let's get into all of the books that surprised me this year. So the first book I have, which I think really shaped my reading for 2020, and that is the Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. This is the first adult romance book that I had ever read, and I absolutely loved it. I thought that it was so much fun, and it literally introduced me to the genre. I had seen like adult romances like around, like they traditionally publish like contemporary ones, and I thought, oh, those covers are so pretty, but like I don't really want to read adult romance. Read this one and just absolutely fell in love, and as you guys probably have seen if you have watched some of my videos, adult romance has really defined my year this year, and I'm so happy that this is the first one that I picked up because it is so wonderful. So this book follows a woman named Stella, and she is super good at math. She loves math. She is a career woman. She is super rich because she is able to like do these insane mathematical things, and she can normally figure anything out if it has some kind of like mathematical formula, but the only thing that she can't figure out is dating and sex. So in order to figure those things out, or to kind of have someone teach her, she enlists the help of a male prostitute, and she basically wants him to teach her how to have sex. My camera's gonna die! Don't you love when you're like 2 minutes into filming a video and your battery already dies? Oh my god. What was I talking about? The Kiss Quotient. And so it turns into this really like cute, hilarious, sexy, fake dating kind of situation. And this book is also really diverse. Stella herself has Asperger's, and I think that this is an Own Voices novel, so the author herself is also on the autism spectrum, and the male lead is also Vietnamese, and so you have like the Asian representation, and I just really loved it. Like I thought Stella and Michael, I think is the male lead's name. Yes, it is Michael. So yeah, I thought their relationship was super cute. So yeah, obviously this book is on the list because I was really judgmental of adult romances before I had read this, and it introduced me to the genre, and now I read adult romance all the time, so I'm very thankful for it. Next up, there's also no particular order to these, like they're not listed or anything, so I'm just kind of randomly talking about them. The next one is Loveboat Taipei by Abigail Hing, and this essentially follows a girl named Hoang, and all she wants to do is dance, but her Chinese parents basically don't want her to do that and decide to send her to the summer camp to kind of learn about her roots and learn about Mandarin and Chinese culture and stuff like that. And so they send her off to like this kind of prestigious like summer academy type thing, and she thinks it's going to be super boring, but actually all they do is party all day, get into a bunch of trouble, and there's all this like drama that happens. And I normally don't like drama filled books, especially like in YA. For some reason I kind of just get annoyed if like drama is the main like plot point, but this book was such a wild ride. I remember explicitly like telling my mom, telling my boyfriend about it, and just talking about how ridiculous and crazy the drama was. And I just felt so much for these characters because there's this weird like love triangle thing that's going on, which again normally I don't like, but for some reason this one I was really invested in. Really fun, and I really was not expecting to have so much fun with it and have like so much things to like discuss with people around me. It also deals with some like deeper topics and stuff like that, but I really was in it for the drama, and it was such a fun time. Next is a book that I have talked about a couple times on my channel as being something that surprised me. That is The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. This is an adult fantasy that follows a girl named Leah. Follows a girl named Leah, and she is put in the situation where she has to marry the crown prince of her neighboring kingdom, but she really doesn't want to do that, so she runs away, and in response to her running away, an assassin is sent after her, and then the prince himself actually comes after her as well, and no one knows who is who. Leah doesn't know who is who, and the readers don't know who is who, and it's actually like really confusing trying to figure out, and I was like totally hoodwinked by Mary E. Pearson. I thought for sure I was going to be able to figure out, but I was not able to, and I just thought, again, that this was just so much fun. That's the theme of this video. Like, books surprise me when I have like more fun than I'm expecting to, And again, I really didn't think that I was going to like this because this was like kind of an old school YA tale. You know, I feel like we have kind of moved past some of the tropes that are in this book, but for some reason I just loved it, and I read the second book and I really liked it too, and I hope that I will finish out the trilogy next year as well. Such a cool surprise, and I wish that I would have read it like back you know, in like my 2015 days, because I feel like I would have liked it even more than I do now. But yeah, overall, super fun. Next, I have another YA, which I was not expecting to like, and that is Hunted by Meagan Spooner. This is a book that I had on my shelves for forever, like so many years, like since when it came out, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I decided to pick this up, I think, for the reading rush this year. Decided just to pick it up because it seemed like it was going to go quick, but I really didn't think that I was going to like it because Beauty and the Beast retellings, I feel like I've read so many of those recently, but this one was such a pleasant surprise. This is actually based on Russian folklore, so it's kind of like a Russian twist on Beauty and the Beast. This was so whimsical. This felt like so much like an actual fairy tale that it was so entertaining, and I'm so glad that I actually read it because, like I said, I still think about this book like constantly. The way that they did the Beauty and the Beast retelling was just so interesting, and probably because they used a different type of folklore. I just really liked it because I went in having like such low expectations for it, but yeah, it was a really great time. Next, I have another adult romance book, and that is The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker, and I didn't think that I was going to like this book just because the tropes within it just seemed like I wasn't going to like it. It basically follows this girl named Calla. She is a city girl, and she ends up having to reconnect with her father, who is actually an Alaskan bush pilot, so he like flies those teeny tiny little planes in Alaska. So she moves from, I think, Toronto or Ontario, some big city in Canada, and she moves then to Alaska for a little bit to kind of like reconnect with her father. Stuff goes down. There's a romance that happens with one of the pilots, and I just didn't think that I was going to like it because I don't really like the small town kind of vibes. That's just me. I personally am like a city girl, and so I was just like, I don't know if I want to read about Alaska and the super buff Alaskan guy. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be like super into that. It started out not really as my favorite, but as it went on, like, I cried buckets at the end of this book. Like, I loved the small town aspect of it, and I just remember feeling so much in this book, which I was not expecting. Like, I knew that it was going to be sad because of the basic premise, but I didn't know that I was going to like sit there and stare at the wall and cry as I was listening to this audiobook. This was really surprising because it was more fun than I expected, and it was also way more emotional and sad than I was expecting, and I didn't know that I was like as connected to these characters until I was just like sobbing. So yeah, this one was really surprising as well. Next, I have another YA book, and this is the one that actually did make my favorite list of 2020 because it was just that good and I think about it all the time, and that is Slay by Brittany Morris. I think this book is impeccable. Like, I love this book so much. It is basically follows this girl that creates this like VR game that is inspired by Black culture, and it is super cool and interesting. One thing that I got into in 2020 is kind of video games, not like super into video games, but I got into some, but this was before that. This was like when I had, you know, I had played like no video games since like 2010 when I was on my Wii or whatever. The video game aspect was so interesting to me. I know some people have said that it's unrealistic, but obviously like I didn't know better, so I didn't care. I thought it was cool as shit. It also made me really angry, but like in a good way, I guess. Like, it just made me feel like a lot of things for the main characters. And like I said, I thought the video game itself, which again is kind of like this fighting style kind of thing, which is based on Black culture, and I just thought that was so interesting and so cool and so well done. And I could just sing the praises of this book all day long, which I will in my favorite books of 2020, but I just wanted to mention it on this list because I am still so surprised by how often I think about this book. Like, I think about it constantly, and I probably should reread it or like get a physical copy of it because I just loved it that much. But yeah, this one was definitely a surprise. Next, I'm going to have another romance book, and this is actually a historical romance. This is a book that I just read last week, which again is why I don't do these videos until the very end of December, and that is The Governess Game by Tessa Dare. This is my second historical romance that I read. The first one that I read was The Duchess Deal, which is the first book in this like Girl Meets Duke series, and I read it as an ebook, and I personally, like, I thought it was fun, but I didn't think that it would, I thought that it was kind of ridiculous, and I didn't really vibe with it as much. But The Governess Game I read on audiobook, and I had such a fun time with this book, and I think this book is what has changed me into wanting to read more historical romance. Like, this put me in such a mood for historical romance, and I think that Tessa Dare is just able to write things that are so much fun. And for me personally, I love listening to romance books on audiobook because I can kind of excuse kind of some of the more ridiculous things, because when it's being read by someone, I just have so much more fun with it, and like I critique it less, if that makes sense. So this book essentially follows a woman named Alex, and she is hired by this duke to be, like, he is next in line to be the duke, named Chase, and he is actually in charge of these two children. They aren't his children, but he is kind of like their guardian, and they need a governess. Alex is also like an astronomer, and she really loves space and comets, and so like constantly nerding out about space. So I think I've come to the conclusion that I love books that center like children. Like, for some reason it just gives me that like extra little like bit that I just absolutely love. I can describe how much fun I had. Like, it put me in such a historical romance mood, and so I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be reading a lot in the coming weeks because it's just such an entertaining time. The last book that I wanted to mention today is A Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. This is a YA fantasy story that is also sapphic. It follows a girl named Denna who is betrothed to the crown prince. Hey, this sounds like very similar to The Kiss of Deception. And I both liked them more than I thought. But this follows a girl named Denna who has to marry the crown prince of like this neighboring kingdom. But the problem is she actually has an affinity for fire, which is a no-no in all the kingdoms. Her kingdom, the neighboring kingdom, all the kingdoms. You cannot do like fire magic or magic of any kind. Like, they magic wielding people are also follows the crown prince's sister named Mare, and she is a horse trainer, and Denna has to end up taking like horse riding lessons from Mare, and stuff happens from there. I've heard people like tear this book apart and say that it's trash, which like I can kind of understand. Like, if you care super much about like the plot, and like the fantasy world is not super complex and there are some plot holes when it comes to the plot and the magic system, but I was just in it for Denna and Mare. Like, I thought they were so sweet together, and it was just a quick easy read, and I was really entertained, and I was also really surprised with the twist that happened at the end. Like, I was not expecting that, and so this was overall just a way better time than I anticipated, and I'm really glad that I read it. I probably won't be reading the sequel because I've heard not very good things about the sequel. I kind of liked how this one wrapped up, so I think I'm just going to leave it at that. Again, super fun, super entertaining, glad I read it. Okay, so I think those are all of the books that I am going to include in this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Again, I just wanted to make this video to highlight some of the books that really surprised me that maybe didn't make it quite onto my favorite books of 2020 list. I wanted to make a video kind of dedicated to them. So yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed. Let me know down below what your most surprising book of the year was. If you've read any books that I mentioned in this video, let me know what you thought. I'll hopefully be seeing you all very soon in some of my other end of the year videos. I hope everyone is staying safe and had happy holidays, no matter what you celebrate. And yeah, bye guys!